Good morning. It is May the 24th, Monday, and this is The Drill. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host and the only true conservative in the United States today. First things first, buy the book. I have written a companion book called The Drill, and it's for sale on Kindle publishing, and it's an ebook, about 80 pages, and $2.99. So again, buy The Drill, the book The Drill. It's a companion book to, and it's the first edition. So I'm going to be updating it as I go along. At least every 6 months, I'm going to be coming out with a new edition of The Drill. So, but today I'm going to be I'm going to offer up the daily declaration for spiritual warfare, and then the Pledge of Allegiance, the Star-Spangled-Banner, and then after that I'm going to be reading from a book by vox-day called "Social Justice Warriors Always Double Down." All that when I come back. May 24th, great goodness is laid up in heaven for you. I have laid up my great goodness for you. My goodness will continually be in your life. I will withhold no good thing from you. I will give you that which is good and let you increase. I will show you the path of life. In my presence is fullness of joy, and at my right hand are pleasures forevermore. I will give you life and length of days. Prayer declaration. Lord, even with you is the fountain of life, and in your light I shall see light. Your words will be life to my soul and grace to my spirit. You have redeemed my life from destruction and crowned me with your love. Let your blessing fill my life and come upon my family. Amen. Let's see here. There we go. And so now it is time for, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star-Spangled Banner. Thank you, and now please remain standing for the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner. Absolutely beautiful, and I like playing both of those. Their children, and the choir is a youth choir, and I like that because again, it's reminds us that as true conservatives, one of the things that sets us apart from the socialists is that we're not jaded. We do not pretend that we've seen it all, we've done it all. We still have a sense of wonder about the world. And I do the pledge in the Star-Spangled Banner also because all of the people that are on the radio that claim to be conservatives, and yet not one of them will offer up the pledge or the Star-Spangled Banner, much less both. And one of the keys, ingredients or descriptions of a conservative is patriotism. There's no such thing as a patriotic socialist. It just doesn't happen. Same thing with objectivism and libertarianism. There's no patriotism in anything on the left. So, since patriotism is part and parcel of being conservative, then it makes absolute sense and is completely correct for me to offer up the pledge in the Star-Spangled Banner. The offering of the Daily Declaration for Spiritual Warfare is to remind us that God is a mighty God and that God chooses sides. The left doesn't want us to believe that. They want everybody to think that God is neutral. God just set things in motion and then walked away. Not so. God knows what's going on. God sees you, knows what you're doing, and God chooses sides. And God is on our side. Let the left snicker about that all they want to, and we'll see how much snickering they're going to be doing in the end of days. So now I'm going to be reading from the book called Social Justice Warriors Always Double Down. It's by vox-day, and this is chapter 4, and it's convergence in the corporation. It's relevant and current because of what's going on at places like Coca-Cola. And this is kind of an explanation of sort of how we got there kind of thing. Quote, society should treat all equally well who have deserved equally well of it. That is, who have deserved equally well absolutely. This is the highest abstract standard of social and distributive justice, towards which all institutions and the efforts of all virtuous citizens should be made in the utmost degree to converge. John Stuart Mill, unquote. John Stuart Mill, Utilitarianism in 1861. And I might make a note there that Marx, one of the important dates in history, is 1850, and that's when Marx wrote one of his books, Capitalist Manifesto, whatever it was. And the point is that this is 11 years after he wrote that, and he's already starting to have influences over people all over the world. And I believe John Stuart Mill was one of those people that was influenced by Karl Marx. But to the book, convergence is the ultimate destination for all organizations infiltrated by SJWs and all individuals who devote themselves to the philosophy of social justice. And by the way, I want to say as an aside here too that he notes, because really there is no such thing as social justice. It doesn't exist. There's 3 types of justice. One of them is distributive. And he makes note of that. He says, quote, this is the highest abstract standard of social and distributive justice. Because there's 3 types of justice, and it's about what to expect. What does the individual expect from other individuals? What does the individual have a right to expect from society? And what is it that society has the right to expect from the individual? Back to the book. Convergence is the process of transforming all of its existing priorities and purposes and redirecting them toward those that serve the interests of social justice, while for an individual, convergence is the transformation of his beliefs and opinions and even his appearance to conform to the current social justice narrative. Any kind of organization can be converged. Every type of organization has been converged, from churches to science fiction conventions, from rock bands to research science fellowships. There's not a single organization that has demonstrated itself to be immune to SJW convergence. Even ancient organizations such as the Roman Catholic Church have shown themselves to be susceptible to SJW infiltration, corruption, and convergence. And remarkably enough, we have even seen that as the adherents of social justice gain more power and influence throughout the West, they have developed the ability to forcibly converge organizations from the outside. They no longer even need to obtain entry into an organization or an institution to converge it, but instead can simply exert social and financial pressure in order to force it to transform its operations and objectives. But a little aside here, they don't have that kind of power. It's an illusion. They can threaten to do all kinds of things. They can threaten to dump the stock. They can threaten to file a lawsuit or whatever. It is up to the people that run the company to decide whether or not they will succumb to those threats. And so far, all of the people that they're talking about, the Roman Catholic Church, the Boy Scouts, and others, are all gutless. They're run by gutless cowards. Instead of standing their ground and saying, do your worst. Do your worst. Do whatever it is that you have to. And you would figure the Roman Catholic Church would, if nobody else can, that the Roman Catholic Church would be able to stand its ground and say no. No. If you're going to destroy the church, then you, again, give it your best shot. So, but they don't. They just cave in because it's more expedient. It's more convenient to just go along with the program. It's also, there's an element of determinism in there. The idea that nobody has free will. We have to do this because we're forced to by powers beyond our control. In this case, the us is corporations, and the powers beyond their control are social justice warriors. Back to the book. Convergence is, in some ways, like a societal cancer. Once an individual successfully converged and accepts a social justice narrative in place of his previous religion, politics, and philosophy, that individual will usually begin to proselytize for one form of SJW narrative or another, and will either attempt to corrupt other individuals he encounters or begin to start trying to converge the organizations to which he belongs. The more fully that an organization is converged, the harder it is for the non-SJW to survive in that organization. And the more organizations that are converged, the easier it is to impose social justice principles and practices on other organizations as well as individuals outside those organizations. Now, that it seems that way, but a lot of that is an illusion as well. You look at the situation with Coca-Cola and other companies that are doing this re-education camps. And the way to defeat that is twofold. You can do it from the inside by simply refusing to state what it is that your race is. It's also by knowing that white is not a race. White is not a race. Okay? So, when you know that and you refuse to state what your race is, then you become immune from this kind of crap. Second thing to do is you're going to approach it from the outside. When you go into a place like Coca-Cola, and you might even do it just to be subversive, put in an application, put in your resume, and when you get called in for an interview, you sit down with them, and at some point in the interview, you say, by the way, you guys aren't full of that social justice warrior crap, are you? You're not one of these organizations that's going to be Nazi-like and look to put people in re-education camps, are you? Put them on the spot. And, of course, they have no other choice but to say, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to have to try to defend it. And when they do, you say, you know what? I don't work for assholes like you. Fuck off. And then leave. Walk away. Okay? When the corporation starts to understand that it will not survive, it cannot survive if it's going to kowtow to social justice warriors, then there's a shot, anyways, that it will come back to its senses and start being a business once again. Remember, back to the book, remember, Mills stated that all institutions and all virtuous citizens should be made to converge, but you can't do it. The only thing you can do is try to put pressure. Okay, put pressure on people, but people can be resistant to pressure, and we've seen that throughout history. Back to the book. Unlike Christianity or even Islam, social justice does not present one with a choice to accept it or not. Yes, it does. False, 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 false. The only question is whether the SJW possesses sufficient power and influence to force your submission or not. With technology, look what happened with Donald Trump. And where's Donald Trump today? He's still communicating. He still communicates to people. He communicates directly, indirectly. He just doesn't do it via Twitter. He just doesn't do it on Instagram. He just doesn't do it on Facebook. Okay, Facebook and all this are not the only ways to communicate. There is even a place that you can go where I think they call it blockchain or something, where you could set up a website and nobody can take it away from you. It belongs to you. The domain belongs to you. All of it. Okay, so there's no such thing as Apple coming along and saying, well, we're going to kick you off of our platform, or Amazon saying, we're going to kick you off of our platform. Can't be done. So technology is always catching up with, and technology is moving faster and faster and faster. So what looks like it might be a deadly threat, the threat to kick you off Twitter, really isn't that at all. It's what it is a threat to your convenience. It's more convenient to communicate via Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, but it's certainly not the only way to communicate, and it's easier to defeat these shadow banning and whatnot than a lot of people will have you believe. Back to the book. And thanks to the increasing convergence of corporate America, particularly the Fortune 500, that power and influence has steadily grown over the past 3 decades. The technology leaders, particularly social media giants, have not only rejected the patriotic GM model famously articulated by the former U.S. Secretary of Defense and CEO of General Motors, quote, what was good for our country was good for General Motors and vice versa, unquote, but have turned it completely on its head. Now patriotism is divisiveness, and the most important corporate priority is no longer maximizing shareholder value or customer satisfaction, but demonstrating superior global citizenship through corporate dedication to tolerance, equality, progress, inclusiveness, and diversity. And this is very, very important that, again, when he's talking about global, because this is part of now globalism, we are to forfeit our identity, our national identity, and forfeit our national property, for that matter. That's the direction this is all headed in, is that it'll be, there are no nations, just one world, and moving towards a one world government type of idea. It's not going to happen because nobody wants it to happen. Not even the socialists want it to happen. Everything that they do is a bluff. They pretend this, they pretend that, because they think that there's power in pretending. The power in what they refer to as act as if. Act as if you're in power, and people will respond to you as though you are in power. Act as if the person you're talking to is a politician, and they will respond like a politician. Okay, and that kind of thing. Or another way to put it is, as Hillary Clinton, thank God we don't have Hillary Clinton. And it's one of the things I tease my lefty friends with, is I say, okay, Joe Biden, but thank God we still don't have Hillary Clinton. Okay, we still don't have, Hillary's still not president. Maybe you got old Joe, but not Hillary. Hillary's still out in the hinterlands somewhere. But she's the one that said, fake it till you make it. And if that doesn't put a chill in your spine, she's saying this is a candidate for president, for the highest office in the land. The commander-in-chief, the person that has access to the nuclear codes. Fake it till you make it. You've got to be kidding. But that's what the left has to offer. Dreams, hopes, ambitions, fraud, that kind of thing. They're counting on you and I to realize their dreams. We actually are the ones with all the power, because all we have to do is say no. Back to the book. Apple's Tim Cook, who succeeded legendary founder Steve Jobs as the landmark computer manufacturer's CEO, is a prime example of the new breed of technology executive. Here's a quote from let's see, it says here, they see their influential positions as more than just very highly paid jobs, but as platforms for affecting the social change they seem desirable. And also I want to say, while I'm thinking about it, is really what all this is fascism. Okay, the difference between fascism and good old-fashioned Marxism, socialism, the USSR versus Nazi Germany and fascist Italy, is that in the USSR, all businesses, or at least big businesses, belong to the state. The state ran them. Okay, the state did all the manufacturing and whatnot. In Nazism and fascism, the businesses are owned privately, but They're controlled by the state. And so that's what he's talking about here is that's what's shaping up. Where we still have their, Steve Jobs and those people they're private citizens. They started a company, it grew, and now they're going to go ahead and try to have socio-political influences over the country and the world at large. And that's nothing less than fascism. Quote, Mr. Cook is one of the many business leaders in the country who appear to be filling the void, using his platform at Apple to wade into larger social issues that typically fell beyond the mandate of executives in past generations. He said that he had never set out to do so, but he feels that he has been thrust into the role as virtually every large American company has had to stake out a domestic policy. Watching Mr. Cook over the years has been fascinating to see how he has become as animated when talking about big issues like education and climate change as he is when he's talking about Apple. Unquote. Apple's Tim Cook barnstorms for moral responsibility by Andrew Ross Sorkin of the New York Times. Although notorious for their commitment to various social justice fads, Apple is far from the most converged technology giant. Intel has launched a $300 million global diversity and inclusion initiative that has adopted the rather dubious phrase, quote, innovation begins with inclusion, unquote. The idea behind the Trust and Safety Council is that people who are being bullied and otherwise tormented by bad people, as defined by the SJWs on the council, will have their accounts temporarily frozen and shadow banned, while links to websites deemed fraudulent, dangerous, or otherwise undesirable will be blocked, and the most egregious offenders will be summarily banned from Twitter. Being a grade A crime thinker and confirmed narrative denier, I have, of course, been subject to most of the Trust and Safety Council's disciplinary actions. And while I've never been banned from Twitter as Milo Yiannopoulos was for offending Saturday Night Live actress Leslie Jones, for more than a year, any attempt to link to my blog is met with the following message. Quote, this request looks like it might be automated to protect our users from spam and other malicious activity. We can't complete this action right now. Please try again later, unquote. As they say, SJWs always lie. What the council has managed to bring about, however, is peak Twitter. Twitter's seemingly inexorable growth slammed to a halt in the first quarter of 2017 and then declined by 2 million users in the second quarter. While this is a drop in the bucket considering that it amounts to only 2.9% reduction in the number of users, this demonstrates once more the truth of the impossibility of social justice convergence. Twitter's business mandate is to grow, but the social justice mandate of its Truth and Safety Council is to expel and punish Twitter's disfavored users. But far and away, the most egregious social justice warriors among the new breed of technology CEOs is Mark Zuckerberg. Quote, for the past decade, Facebook is focused on connecting friends and families. Without foundation, our next focus will be developing the social infrastructure for community. Quote, bring this all together as a global community is a project bigger than any one organization or company, but Facebook can help contribute to answering these 5 important questions. 1. How do we help build supportive communities that strengthen traditional institutions in a world where membership in these institutions is declining? 2. How do we help people build a safe community that prevents harm, helps during crises, and rebuilds afterwards in a world where anyone across the world can affect us? 3. How do we help people build an informed community that exposes us to new ideas and builds common understanding in a world where every person has a voice? 4. How do we help people build a critically engaged community in a world where participation in voting sometimes includes less than half our population? 5. How do we help people build an inclusive community that reflects our collective values and common humanity from local to global levels, spanning cultures, nations, and religions in a world with few examples of global communities? My hope is that more of us will commit to our energy to building the long-term social infrastructure to bring humanity together. These answers to these questions won't all come from Facebook, but I believe we can play a role. Our job at Facebook is to help people make the greatest positive impact while mitigating areas where technology and social media can contribute to divisiveness and isolation. Facebook is a work in progress, and we are dedicated to learning and improving. We take our responsibilities seriously, and today I want to talk about how we plan to do our part to build this global community, unquote. Building Global Community, Mark Zuckerberg, February 17th, 2017. Due to its excellent infrastructure and talented programmers, Facebook has built the closest thing to a corporate panopticon in human history. Nevertheless, Facebook remains one of the greatest threats to individual privacy and freedom in human history, particularly because it is headed by a sincere and committed social justice warrior. Again, he's making a bit of a meal out of this because he's making it seem as though that this is somehow, number one, inevitable, and number two, that the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world are all powerful. Let's remember, nobody has to use Facebook. Nobody has to use Twitter. Nobody has to use Instagram. All of those things are conveniences. That's all they are. And it's easy to get used to them. We get used to those conveniences, and if they're taken away from us, yes, we're going to be again inconvenienced. And but that's what we have to remember is going on here. It's not, and also we have to understand that technology marches on. Zuckerberg isn't the threat that he thinks he is. Neither is Tim Cook or any of the other people, the Twitter CEO, etc., because they don't control technology in general. Okay? And they don't control the rate of technological change. Okay? Today, Facebook, yesterday it was MySpace. Now it's Facebook. Okay? Facebook was bought out MySpace, I believe. And so there's all kinds of companies in technology that come and go. Some of them get bought up, some of them go out of business. And what Facebook and Apple and others are doing is really pointing the company in a direction that's going to ensure its self-destruction. Now, another place where there's an opportunity for conservatives to strike, so to speak, is when, as these companies start losing money, as people become less and less interested in social justice warriors and being monitored, because you think that the people on the outside are the ones that are going to be monitored and looked at the most. As we will discover tomorrow, the people that are under the most pressure are the people inside these companies, because they're the ones that have to police themselves and each other. Because again, if you're going to be an organization such as what Tim Cook describes or Zuckerberg describes, you have to have solidarity. Everybody has to pull together to do their job, to go help the company reach its goals. Okay, if you have any dissenters, it's not going to work. You can't have any dissenters. So what the company ends up doing is killing itself because they're going to, again, like he was saying in this particular section of the chapter 4, that they're going to be working, instead of expanding, they're getting smaller. Because they're looking, their philosophy is to be on the lookout for people to exclude rather than to be on the lookout for people to include. So they're going to be creating the company's going to get smaller, the shares are going to get smaller, the amount of money per share is going to drop, and sooner or later then people are going to start, they may pay lip service to Facebook, but they're going to go ahead and look somewhere else for their retirement. They're going to put their money somewhere else, and they'll skip Coca-Cola, and they'll just find other organizations to again put their money into. So, but what could happen at that particular point, and where the conservatives can be vital, is if let's say Facebook is losing money, then Zuckerberg could very easily go to a sympathetic administration, okay, sympathetic presidential administration, and get or ask for tax money to make up the difference. Ask for, flat out, a subsidy. And it would be very natural for them to do that, to go to say, hey, look, we're not just out here promoting a business. We're not just out here making profits and creating shareholder value. We are shaping the world. We're shaping reality and shaping the world. And therefore, your administration should make sure that we survive to continue that mission. And in order to survive, we need money. So that's a place where the conservatives can then stand their ground and say, no effing way. You're not getting a nickel of my tax money for this kind of crap. You want to do it on your own dime, that's fine. But you're not going to be the taxpayer's little jet setter, so to speak. So, back in a minute. Thank you very much. So tomorrow I'm going to be continuing with the Social Justice Warrior book, and it's a fascinating, there's memos that were leaked from, I think it was Facebook, one of these stupid organizations, where they were having some kind of meeting that was generated by something one of their people said. It was in the news where this guy had written some kind of an internal memo and ended up getting fired over it. And so then they had this big meeting about, how is it that we could have memos like this running around? And so they're really closing ranks. It's a kind of a closing ranks thing, us versus them. It's very paranoid. It's very xenophobic. It is heterophobic, xenophobic, all of that stuff. And so it's interesting. It gives a beautiful picture into the minds of these people. And we're going to be able to watch them basically destroy themselves. Again, the analogy I like to use is watching a scorpion sting itself to death. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. So, but that's tomorrow. Until then, be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and remember that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win.